Hello guys, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 3.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto fall in love with Yoruichi during Chunin exams part 1? And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Release me, a dark voice said, giving a headache to a certain little blonde boy. Who's there? The boy said, features hidden by the surrounding darkness and lack of light. Let me out and I'll give you power. For some reason the boy was greatly scared by the voice, like he knew it had some sort of dark secret. Don't listen him young one, another voice spoke, this one male and deep, yet he knew that he was safe with this voice. Get out of boy and don't return till you're stronger. A light shined into the dark world and the boy ran toward it, wanting to leave the darkness and the dark voice. The dark voice, however, didn't agree with him leaving. No, he will not leave. Not until I get what I want. Twin hands made of darkness shot out from under the ground and grabbed the boy's legs, causing him to trip. He tried to break their hold but soon more hands formed, pinning him to the ground. Soon they started to sink into the ground and the boy began to cry and silently asked the other voice to help. Dark creature, the boy is not your tool to use. A flash blinded the boy and when it was gone, he saw that he was freed and that the surrounding darkness was gone, revealing a barren landscape. He will return soon. Go quickly. Listening to the other voice, he ran as fast as he could to the light, while behind him a cloud of darkness, engulfing the land, was quickly approaching. You will not leave. Faster boy, faster. The boy managed to enter the light and was forced to close his eyes at the brightness, but behind him, he could still hear the dark voice yelling his name. Naruto. 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 He slowly opened his eyes when the voice changed to a woman's own and was met with the concerned eyes of a purple-hair woman. The boy, Naruto, hugged the woman crying into her embrace as she comforted him. It's okay Naruto, it was just another nightmare. Although she said it was, both her and Naruto, somehow, knew it was something much worse. Hours later, 6:32 a.m., Shihuan Yoruichi was a woman of many things, former captain of the 2nd Division, Rouge Shinigami along with her 2 childhood friends, the Flash Goddess, and former commander of the Onmitsukido. Not once in her long life would she ever thought that she would become a mother, although it's been fun teaching and caring for Naruto for the last 8 years and not once she regretted her decision in taking him. She still remember that fateful day when she saved his life. Flashback. It was a dark night in the world of Shinobi, a place where it was different yet same to the human world, people having abilities that matched the Shinigami own and most having the ability to see them. Because of those things the Sotaicho declared the world off limits to everyone but captains and kept a secret until further information was given about it. After the attack of the 9-tailed fox, it left Konohagakure no Sato open to attack, due to its lack of leaf nin and loss of the Yondaime Hokage after managing to contain the demon. Of course none this mattered to a certain black cat that ran on top of the house in the village. After she and her 2 friends, Urahara Kazuki and Tessai Tsukubishi, was declared enemies of the Soul Society, they had fled taking along the newly dubbed Vizards and hiding them in the human world in special-made Gigai. After about 95 years of hiding, she decided to visit the shinobi world to have some fun. She looked on as the remaining leaf shinobi gathered the bodies of others after the attack. Must have been some attack to cause something like this. She arrived after the sealing of the demon and didn't know the real story of what happened. Before she could leave to see another village, she felt an incredible amount of Raryoku coming from the hospital. This Raryoku, it's almost as high as a captain's own. Running toward her destination, she found the window of the room that was giving off the Raryoku and climbed to it but was greatly surprised of what she saw. A baby, about a couple hours old and in a small crib, was crying, but that is not what shocked her, rather that the baby was giving off all the Raryoku she felt. Impossible, a baby shouldn't be able to give off this much Raryoku at his age. She was cut off from her thoughts as a nurse came into the room and in her hand a small knife. Going to the crib, she looked at the crying baby with disgust and hate before bringing the knife above her head. Wait, is she going to? She brought down the knife and Yoruichi's golden eyes widened, transforming into her human form. She smashed through the window and knocked down the surprised nurse before she could stab the baby. Who are you? The nurse asked, surprised that someone had found her and that her attacker didn't have any clothes on. Yoruichi didn't answer and instead released some of her Raryoku, causing the nurse to shake in fear. Why did you try and kill this baby? She asked, the baby no longer crying but watching Yoruichi. The nurse, filled with sudden hate, stood up slowly and answered. That is not a baby, that is a demon. He killed my husband when he attacked our home. This surprised the dark-skinned woman and looked at the crib which held the baby, who smiled and gurgled at her, completely unaware of being so close to being killed. Soon she heard people outside the room and quickly ran back out the broken when the door busted down, revealing a old man wearing a white coat and two animal mask wearing shinobi, both of who grabbed the nurse whom tried a second attempt to kill the baby. Yoruichi was watching outside above the broken window, floating by placing a thin layer of Ryoku under her feet. The old man ran up to the crib and sighed in relief that the baby was unharmed but rather looking for something. You two take her away from her and help with the others with the bodies. I'll stay here and watch Naruto. The two nodded and disappeared in a puff of smoke while the old man held out his finger to Naruto, who grabbed it. Soon he felt a familiar person enter behind him. What do you want, Danzo? Behind him was a man with bandages covering his right eye and arm with a cane walked to his side, causing Naruto to look at him. I thought that you should know Sarutobi. Danzo fought back a smirk. That both the civilian and most of the shinobi council had agreed with me raising Naruto. This caused Sarutobi's eyes to widen and look at the man in disbelief. When was this vote taken, and why wasn't I informed about it earlier? He yelled silently, trying not to raise his voice, which might cause Naruto to cry. It was taken while you, Minato, and the other shinobi fought against the nine-tailed fox. Nine-tailed fox? Yoruichi thought, listening to the two. I proposed that if Minato was able to seal it back, we would need the Jinchuriki to be raise a loyal shinobi, one that would be unbeaten and ready protect the village. So they appointed me as the perfect person to raise him and to be the one who trains him. The man stopped as Sarutobi tightened his fists in an effort to keep his anger under control. By tomorrow I'll be his new father, so please enjoy the time you have with him. Danzo walked out and Sarutobi let a few tears escape his eyes. Damn that man, and to think I was friends with him once. You can come out now, Shinigami. He yelled, and Yoruichi jumped into the room back in her cat form. I'm surprised that you knew that I was there, she said, jumping up to the crib's railing and letting her tail swing back and forth above Naruto, who tried to grab it. I guess you felt the spiritual energy I gave off. Sarutobi nodded his head as he looked at her. I met and fought your kind before, and I know that you are invisible to some, however I need you to do something. Sarutobi reached into his coat and pulled out a large file with Naruto's name on it. If you can, please take Naruto away from here. Yoruichi was more than glad to take the little baby away from Danzo, but was wondering about some things. First, I want to know about what you two were talking about. I'm afraid that I don't have time to explain it all, but everything about what happened today and about Naruto is in this file. I know that Minato would want his son to become someone who protects the people he cares for, whether it'll be here or somewhere else, but I refuse to have him raised by Danzo just to become an emotionless killer. Just please take him somewhere safe and don't return here. Yoruichi could tell that this old man cared deeply for Naruto, so deeply that he'll be willing to give him off to a stranger and he would never be seen again. All right, I'll take him. Sarutobi sighed but then wondered about something. How are you going to carry him? Yoruichi somehow smirked in her cat form, jumped off the crib, and transformed. Sarutobi's eyes widened at the form of the dark-skinned goddess who took Naruto in her arms and the file from his hands. I promise that I'll take good care of him. She disappeared in a shunpo and left the old man gaping, who then fainted from major blood loss, although he still had a pervert look on his face. Karakura Town. Kazuki was waiting for his childhood friend in the shop. When she asked if he could open a gate to the shinobi, he gladly did it, knowing that she was bored, and when she was bored, she would train with him. Even though they're both captains, she was much faster and stronger than him and decided to save himself from the pain. When he felt her Raryoku, he smiled, and Yoruichi, now wearing clothes, appeared in the room he was in. Ah, Yoruichi-chan, how was your trip to the world of ninjas? He then took notice of the blanket in her arms, stood up and looked at it before his jaw dropped in shock. Naruto was asleep during most part of the travel, and when he was awake he just smiled and tried to grab her neck warmer in an attempt to get her attention. Kazuki was still in shock, and Yoruichi had to say that his shocked face was by far the funnest expression she's seen on a person yet. The blonde man regained himself and looked at her and then Naruto, and did so for a minute before saying, "I guess you had too much fun in the shinobi world." Hit crash. Tessai, a large man and friend of Kazuki, Ururu, a small girl made by Kazuki, and Jinta, a young boy, heard a loud hit and crash in Kazuki's room, and the trio went to see what happened. What they found was Kazuki now stuck in the wall, and Yoruichi, who had her left hand out, which was in a fist, and her holding a blanket. The three went to see, and all of them gained shocked expressions at Naruto. What? How? Jinta had tried to say while Ururu fainted in surprise. Tessai, after he stopped his goldfish looked at Yoruichi, who took out a file. If you're all wondering, this file will explain everything. She had looked at it during the long trip and decided that Naruto's parents, although Naruto he will never get the chance to meet them, were great people giving up their lives to protect him. She wanted to be the same, to raise Naruto like they would have. End flashback. 8 years, that is how long she and the others had been taking care of Naruto. She sighed as Naruto slept with his head in her lap. She noticed that he would kick every now and then like a small fox, which caused her to smile. She hadn't regretted her decision and will for a long time. She then thought back to his nightmare when he told her about it. That's the 3rd time this month, that thing is gaining power, she thought with a frown. What is happening to my little boy? She asked Kazuki about it and said he has 2 theories. 1. The Kyuubi is trying to take control of him, or 2. Something else was sealed into him. Even though she told Naruto about his parents, he still considered her as her Oji-san, but was glad to be related to great people. She smiled as she stroked his whisker cheek a bit. 100 years ago, she never considered having kids nor being in a relationship involving kids. But here she is, taking care of Naruto like he is her son, and in some ways they do seem similar. They both love to prank people, and love ramen, and she, along with Kazuki and Tessai, teach him so much. She teach him her animal transformation ability, Kazuki teach him about the human world, soul society, and hollows. Tessai helped him whenever he could, and he got along well with Jinta and Ururu. They had many fond memories with each other, like him fighting his first hollow, something she hadn't forgiven Kazuki for yet. Flashback. Naruto, now 5, was fighting his very first hollow. The hollow itself was very weak, humanoid in appearance with skinny arms and legs, a mask that looks similar to the ones people in African would wear, and the hollow heart in its chest. Kazuki decided to train Naruto, and when he said that, Yoruichi had expected for him to train him in his Zanjutsu again, not let him fight his first hollow. Yoruichi had become very overprotective of her son, much like a cat with its kittens, but even she couldn't deny his training, so she began training him in Hakuda and Shunpo, Tessai with Kido, and Kazuki in Zanjutsu. However, Kazuki decided, without Yoruichi or Tessai knowing, to take him on his first hollow fight. Naruto had been growing well, with his blonde hair in spikes and his whiskers marks, from which Yoruichi suspects is from the Kyuubi, and he still has his baby features like his chubby cheeks, innocent smile, and blue eyes that always to shine with mischief. Right now he had a few cuts on his body from the hollow, and the hollow had lost one of its arm. To the side, Kazuki watched with a smile on his face. Naruto then disappeared, which caused it to look around before noticing the shadow above it. Looking up, the last thing it saw was Naruto's drop kick, which shattered the mask. Kazuki was impressed by Naruto's Hakuda and Shunpo skills were great, along with his Zanjutsu and Kido. Yeah, did you see me, Kazuki-kun? I beaten that hollow. Kazuki smiled at his enthusiastic behavior and Shunpo to him. Not bad, Naruto-kun, but you still have a long way to go. For now, let's head back. Naruto grabbed his hand and they Shunpo away. Urahara shop. Yoruichi was currently waiting for Kazuki and Naruto to come back. After finding out that Kazuki was not in the underground training, she decided to wait for them to come back. She felt too familiar Raryoku, and the door opened, revealing the two people in question. Naruto, seeing her, ran to her and hugged her, and she noticed some dry blood. Kazuki was currently sweating bullets, not expecting for her to arrive early. So Naruto, how was your training? She asked as he pulled out of the hug. It was great, Oka-san. Kazuki-kun took me out and let me fight my very first hollow. By now Kazuki was sweating buckets and Yoruichi had an enraged look in her golden eyes. Tessai. The large man appeared by her side in an second. Do you mind getting Naruto some ramen? Of course not, Yoruichi-chan. Come on Naruto, let's go. Naruto went out with him and left Kazuki with the mad Yoruichi, who was cracking her knuckles. End flashback. He is still have pains from the beating I gave him. She thought happily with a smile. Then there was the time when he used his first Shunpo to escape taking a bath. Flashback. Naruto. Come out wherever you are. Yoruichi yelled as she, Kazuki, and Tessai looked for Naruto, who was hiding from taking a bath. Currently they were checking the underground training room since it's the largest place for him to hide in. Yoruichi, with her cat-like hearing, heard giggling behind a large boulder and Shunpo on top of it. There hid a 6-year-old Naruto who was covered in mud and dirt. Naruto up at the amused face of his Oji-san and tried to escape again, only to be caught by her hug. Come on Naruto, it's bath time. Naruto struggled in her hug as she walked over to Tessai and Kazuki, both of them was watching the duo with smiles. Then something unexpected happened. The moment she placed him the ground to help him climb the ladder, he disappeared in a Shunpo. This shocked the three adults as they looked around for him again. End flashback. While she catch up to him easy, he did gave her two friends a run for their money. She yawned, and seeing how that she ain't moving anytime soon, she decided to catch up on much needed sleep that she lost from following a orange hair boy all day. Closing her eyes, she was unaware of the faint glowing seal that was on Naruto's stomach. As Ichigo walked to Urahara's shop, he couldn't help but feel nervous. He didn't stand a chance against that vice captain before. Hell, he couldn't even land on him when he called his Zanpakuto name. Kazuki even said that the chances, even with his training, he might not make it back home alive. He shook his head. No, he can't be scared. Beside, Rukia saved his family life before by giving her powers to him, and now it was time to return the favor. When he made it to Urahara's shop, he saw that not just Kazuki was there but Chad as well. Chad, what are you doing here? Ichigo asked as Chad stood up. Rukia once saved me, Chad said. I'm going too. What, you didn't hear? Ichigo heard a voice behind him and looked to see Ishida. Ishida, no way will I remain defeated by those Soul Reapers. I'm going as well. Now we're all here. Once again he turned to see Orihime. Please look after me, she said while bowing. Hey, what's going on? Ichigo was pretty shocked that his three friends are going as well, however it wasn't over yet. You're right, Ka-chan, he is slow, an unknown voice said. causing everyone to look at the source. Yoruichi was heading toward the group. Someone that only one didn't know, but only Kazuki and Yoruichi knew, the small yellow kitsune that was following her, or him in Ichigo in the other's case. The kitsune was about half the size and length of Yoruichi and walked beside her, his eyes big and sky blue and the small tail waving behind him. "See Naruto, that's why I don't leave you with Kazuki for too long," Yoruichi said, as she and Naruto walked up to the group. "You might become like Ichigo here, powerful yet slow." Yoruichi. Ishida greeted. "Who is the small fox?" "Ah yes, none of you met him yet," Yoruichi said, placing a paw on the small kitsune's head. "This is Naruto, my son." "Hi." Naruto happily greeted them. Orihime, with speed no one knows she had, disappear and reappear right in front of Naruto and hugged him, also blocking his ability to breath with her large. "Oh, he's so kawaii. I just wanna hug him and never let go," she yelled as she death hugged Naruto. "Orihime-chan, I advise you to let go before you kill him," Yoruichi said, as the orange-haired girl let go of the kitsune where he gasped for air. "Why does every girl do that? I'm not kawaii. I'm a fearsome kitsune." He tried his best, looking more scary, and growled, "Can foxes growl?" but only made himself look more kawaii, and Orihime barely held back her urge to hug him again while Yoruichi laughed at her son's antics. Ichigo, however, stood shocked the entire time. "You really are slow, not noticing the increase in the hidden powers of these three. During your training to become a Soul Reaper again, these three were also training in their own way. Instead of criticizing them, you should bow and thank them. And I bet you're all wondering why Naruto is going," she said, once again placing her paw on Naruto's head. "Well, I promise him a trip to the Soul Society on his last birthday. I wanna see all the new people I can prank." Ichigo looked at the two talking animals in shock before yelling. "A cat and kitsune just spoke. And how can a cat be related to a kitsune anyway? This is his first time meeting you two, Ka-chan?" Naruto asked, looking at her. "Yes, I guess Kazuki never mentioned me while you were training him." She looked at the store owner. "I thought I did. Guess he forgot while trying to stay alive," Kazuki said. "Anyway, enough talking. It's time for us to go." He led the group into the shop and closed the door behind them. Underground training room. Wow, all this space under one little shop, it's so cool. Orihime admired the surroundings, which caused Tessai to thank her and made tears fall from his face. Kazuki called everyone attention by clapping loudly. "Okay everyone, here we go." He snapped his fingers and appeared a white gate. "Behold the Senkaimon, the gate that will lead you to the Soul Society. Now I want you all to listen very carefully, but first," he appeared behind Ichigo and pushed him out of his body. As everyone gathered around the Ikigoless body, Yoruichi and Naruto sat on a rock watching them. "Are you sure you want to go, Naruto?" Yoruichi asked him, giving him a concerned look. "The Shinigami there are very powerful and dangerous, some of them will kill you if they get the chance." She was completely against bringing Naruto to the Soul Society, but he made her promise that she would one day. "I'll be fine, Ka-chan, beside you, Kazuki, and Tessai taught me a lot and I can defend myself." He did have a point. Naruto was a fast learner, and very well adept at using Hakuda and Shunpo, and his sword skills were nothing to laugh at. Even if he didn't have a sword nor a Zanpakuto, he is still just as dangerous as anyone on the team. Only his Kido skills were rather lacking. He can't use any high-level Kido spells or it would blow up in his face. But he can still perform good binding spells. "Just remember, stay by my side the entire trip, and if we somehow get separated, stay in your kitsune form. You're less likely to get in trouble in this form than your human form." "Alright, Ka-chan." They both jumped off the rock as Kazuki finished explaining about the 4-minute time limit they have and what would happen if they don't cross over in time. What do we do?" Orihime asked. "Go forward," Yoruichi said, getting everyone to look at them. "I told you that the heart and soul are connected. The important thing is what you feel in your heart and the will to move it forward. I will be your guide, but I will only guide those who can follow me. For a second, no one said anything, then Ichigo stepped forward. Are you done talking yet? He said. Why do you think we're here? So you understand, if you fail, you cannot return home. Ichigo nodded his head, as did his three friends as well. A bright light got their attention and they looked at the gate which Kazuki and Tessai were now opening. Okay, on the count of 3, run though. Everyone tensed as the gate glowed brighter. 1. Rukia saved my family. Ichigo thought with a determined look. 2. She helped my brother find peace. Orihime thought with a graceful look. 3. She saved my life. Chad thought, one eye showing a determined fire. Go. I refuse to take my defeat laying down. Ishida had a look of revenge in his eyes. They all ran though the gate as it opened and a bright light engulfed them. When it was gone, only Tessai and Kazuki remained, who stood up and tried to touch the gate, only to receive a shock from it. I'm counting on you, Ichigo. In the world between the living and Soul Society, Ichigo and the gang were currently running for their lives from a dark purple wall that was chasing them. What is happening? We just got here and the place is already collapsing, Ichigo said, looking at the purple wall. If you have time to talk and look back, you have time to run, Yoruichi said as she ran beside Naruto, who was keeping pace with her. Just don't let the walls touch you, otherwise it's all over. A large section of the wall came crashing down that managed to grab Ishida's cape and began pulling him back. Ichigo turned around and was about to use his Zanpakuto to cut it, but Yoruichi stopped him. Wait, Ichigo. If you use your Zanpakuto, you'll be caught in the current as well. Chad ran behind Ishida, grabbed his cape and ripped it off. Thanks, huh? Ishida was surprised as Chad grabbed him and threw him on his shoulder and began to run. Hey, put me down, I can run on my own. He stopped complaining as he saw something coming from behind the wall. What's that? A dark object that looked similar to a train came crashing through the wall and began to chase them now. It's the cleaner. It comes once a week and it had to be today, Yoruichi said while Naruto looked at it. As he did, he could help but be remembered of the nightmares he had, the two voices. That's when it happened. Set me free. Naruto cried out in pain as he suddenly felt a massive headache, causing him to fall over in pain. Naruto! Everyone yelled. Yoruichi ran to him and used her mouth to pick him up by the scruff of his neck. Think how a lioness carried their cubs right before the cleaner touched him. Is he alright? Orihime asked as Yoruichi caught up to them, carrying the small kitsune in her mouth. I'm not sure, but first let's get out of here, she managed to say. They saw the way into the Soul Society and picked up pace. It's no use, it's too fast, Ishida said as the cleaner got faster while Orihime turned toward the wall and said. Hanagaku. Bagan. Lily. Satin Keshun. I reject. A triangular wall appeared in front of her and blocked the cleaner, also causing a large explosion which pushed them all through the gate. Soul Society. In a peaceful little town, a door opened up and shot out the gang. A dust cloud covered them for a second before settling, showing that only Chad had landed on his feet, arms pressed to his chest for some reason. Yoruichi didn't feel Naruto's fur in her mouth and began to look around, fearing the worst. Yoruichi-chan. Chad called out, getting her to look at him. He moved his large arms to show that Naruto was safe, just sleeping soundly against his chest. Yoruichi sighed in relief and gave him a graceful look which he returned with a smile. I'm so glad, no one got really hurt, Orihime said, only to receive a headbutt to the eye by Yoruichi. What's there to be glad about? Yoruichi yelled as Orihime held her hurt eye. Didn't you listen? Don't use your powers in there. You're just lucky that the restrictive current only made contact with the shield and not your flowers, otherwise you won't be here right now. Sorry. Don't be hard on her, at least we made it though. By the way, Ichigo said as he looked at the small kitsune that was in Chad's arms. What's wrong with Naruto? Everyone looked at the black cat for answers. I'll explain when I get the chance, but for now, Chad, do you mind carrying Naruto until he gets up? She asked the large teen. Of course not, he said. Soon everyone took in their new surroundings. Is this the Soul Society? Ishida asked. Yes, this is the Rukan district, the drifting spirit town. This is where new souls begin when they first arrive here, and is on the perimeter of the Seraite where the Soul Reapers stay. It's the poorest district but the one with the most freedom and largest number of souls out of all the others. However, despite that, not a single soul was in sight. But where is everyone? Ishida asked again as Ichigo looked to the side, noticing a difference. Hey, why is it so different over there? He asked. That is. She was cut off as Ichigo suddenly exclaimed. I got it. That's where all the Soul Reapers stay at, the whatever. He ran forward, surprising the cat. You baka. Get back here before you die. Ichigo looked back just as a large wall slammed into the front of him, blinding Eveon with a dust cloud. When it cleared, the way was now with something massive. It's been a while since someone tried getting into the Seirei gate without a travel permit. Ichigo looked up to see an extremely large, muscular man who had his hair is tied into a ponytail, which extends down his waist. He has long sideburns, which continue down onto his neck and long enough to be tied up in small ponytail-like tufts. He is wearing armor on his left shoulder, upper arm, and a red hat with tassels. The left side of his chest is left exposed by his uniform. You're a rare guest, kid. Seraite. Within the wall, several Shinigami looked at the gate. Those Ryoka really managed to break into the Soul Society, one said. At least they landed on the other side, so we don't need to take care of them. Yay, especially since the one guarding that gate, another said with the number 69 tattooed on his cheek. As Jidando. Other side of wall. The giant slammed down his axe right in front of Ichigo. He laughed as he stared down at Ichigo. Now try to come at me from any side, kid. So huge. Orihime said as they stared at the man, if you can call him that. He's way too huge to be human. Just who or what is he? Ishida asked. His name is Jidando. He's one of the 4 best picked to guard the gates that lead to the Seraite. The gate we're trying to cross is the White Road Gate. Gate. Does that mean we have to beat him? Yes, and it won't be easy. Since the 300 years he'd been on duty guarding the gate, not a single soul had been able to break into the White Road Gate. He is legendary for his power and strength. So how do we beat someone like that? First we come up with a plan to take him down with, hey Ichigo. She was surprised again as Chad gently put Naruto onto the ground and ran forward with Orihime. Get back here. Both of you. Jidando saw the both of them coming and cut his axe into the ground behind Ichigo and moved it to the left. That made an effective makeshift wall, blocking to 2 path. I don't like people with those kinds of manners, I guess you're country bumpkins. Now listen up. We have rules in the city. First, wash your hands before you enter it. 2. Don't eat food that fallen on the food. And 3. When you fight, it's 1-on-1. This surprised the 2, now knowing that they can't help Ichigo. I'll fight you all once I'm done with my first opponent, which is the candy-haired kid. He turned his back to them while Chad began making a plan to break and surprise the giant. What? The 2 looked at the man as he turned his head toward them. Are you still planning something? He has pretty good ears. Orihime commented, to which Chad agreed with. Oh Orihime, Chad. They heard Ichigo call from the other side. Ichigo, are you alright? Orihime yelled back. Yes, I'm still kicking, but you 2 just stay back. Huh, they said in unison. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Ishida ran up to the wall and yelled. No, I refuse. Our time is limited. Instead of fighting him solo, let us come over and help you. That way we can take him down faster and get going. Oh, you're there too, Ishida. The Quincy blushed in embarrassment and yelled back. Quit asking stupid questions. within Naruto's mind. While all of that was happening, Naruto, still in kitsune form, was back in his mind, only this time the darkness wasn't there nor the barren land. Instead, a large grassland expanding as far as he could see, and he was underneath a large tree, covering him with shade. Nice to see you're back. Naruto heard a voice, it was close yet distant like the wind. Who there? He asked. I'm not surprised that you don't know me, however, you'll meet me soon, but that is not why I called you here. The land around Naruto began to wither and die. He knows you're here now, I don't have much time. Listen, when you encounter him, you must be prepared to fight to the end. He'll use anything to his advance to win. So be ready for anything. The dying lands began to break apart as the wind began to roar loudly. Wait, who's he? Naruto yelled over the roaring winds as he held onto the tree which was pulled out of the ground by the winds. The voice said nothing before saying, you'll learn in time, young one, but be prepared to fight him when you do. The tree got ripped out of the ground and sent Naruto flying, but a flash of light blinded him, and before he knew it, he was gone. The land settled down as the land began to fix itself as two voices began to speak. Why do you try to protect him? He'll need my powers sooner or later. The dark voice said. Because if he solely relies on your power, he'll be consumed by it. He needs my powers as well. Still, it's his choice to pick, but the question is, will be able to control one of us? Or all three? Soul Society. Naruto awoken to the sound of clashing and was met by his Ka-chan golden eyes. Naruto, are you alright? Yay, Ka-chan, but where's everyone? Yoruichi pointed to the makeshift wall as Jidando kept hitting someone while counting, or tried to 10. Who is that? Naruto said, getting back onto his 4 feet. That is Jidando, the gate guardian, and right now Ichigo is fighting him. It's time for the finisher. Jidando yelled as he swung the axe to the side and hit Ichigo, also taking out the wall he made and made a large mark on the gate behind him. Jidando looked shocked at something as he said, what? The last of the wall crumbled to reveal Ichigo had blocked the giant's axe and had not even a scratch on him. Are you finished yet? He said, swing his Zanpakuto to the front of him. Then it's my turn. Everyone was surprised by the outcome of what happened. Wow, he doesn't even have a scratch on him from all those attacks. Naruto said in awe. I guess Kazuki training did well for him. Yoruichi said, impressed by Ichigo's power. I'm not done yet. Jidando reached into his uniform and pulled out a second axe. As he raised them above his head, he called on his Raryoku, causing him armor to break apart. Now it's time for my final lethal attack. Banzai Jidando Matsuri. He swung both axes down at Ichigo, who only said, sorry, but I'm going to break those axes. He hit the axes with his Zanpakuto, causing 2 effects. 1. The axes shattered, and 2. He somehow caused an explosion with Orihime blocked against, shielding her, Ryu and Chad. When it cleared, Jidando fell back against the gate in shock. What did Ichigo do? He sent that giant back easily. Ryu said in a surprised, shocked tone. Jidando blinked at what happened before getting up and laughing. Ha, I bet you thought I went flying, that can never happen. I faked that, you country bumpkins. Now I shall defeat you with my axes, huh? He finally noticed that his axes were broken and did something unexpected. First he was shocked into silence and then he started to cry, really loud. My axes are broken, he yelled while pounding on the ground, causing everyone in the ground to shake as he did. Ka-chan, are all Shinigami here like this? Naruto asked, feeling a sweat drop at the back of his head as he watched the scene before him. I really don't know, Naruto, Yoruichi said, feeling a sweat drop as well. But if they are, I guess a lot changed when I last came here. Chad, Orihime, and Ishida watched as well. Well, he crying, now what? Ishida said, a sweat drop falling. His voice sounds like a siren. Orihime randomly said, Hey, sorry for breaking your axes, Ichigo apologized as he rubbed the back of his head. I didn't need to break them, how bad of me. Jidando crying slowed down as he replied, no. Why you're not bad. We're enemies but you are concerned about me. He suddenly grabbed Ichigo with his large hands. You have a big heart. Well, if you see someone crying, you should at least try to comfort them. And look at me, crying over my axes like when a kid favorite toy breaks, Jidando said as he stood up. I'm a loser. Throwing his arms into the air, he went on with his rambling. A complete loss, as a warrior, as a man. I completely lost. He looks down at Ichigo. It's been a while since I became the guardian of the White Road Gate, I never lost once. You are the first person to defeat me in combat. Jidando wiped away some of his tears. Pass. I, Jidando, give you permission to go though the White Gate Road. Huh. Ichigo was still a little surprised at Jidando act but his mind caught up to the last thing he said. Why yeah. So we can all pass now. Ishida said. Yes. I lost to your leader which means all of you can go. I have no right to stop you. Huh. Ichigo is our leader. No way. Why are you so upset? Your name is Ichigo. Jidando said, looking at the group. That's cute. This got Naruto, who was now sitting on Orihime's head, to laugh loud enough for Ichigo to hear. Shut up Naruto. Besides Ichi means, one, and Go stands for, protect. It's not cute but if you want to see something cute here. He suddenly grabbed Naruto from Orihime and held him out for Jidando to see. Jidando, seeing the little kitsune, dropped down his knees to get a better look at him. Ah, it's been a while since I saw a baby kitsune. He used his pointer to scratch Naruto's little head and despite its size, it was gentle. However, Naruto didn't like being called cute. Let me go Ichigo. He bit Ichigo's hands but his small teeth couldn't really do nothing to his hands. Besides remember our mission. Oh yay. Sorry. Ichigo put down Naruto who went back to Orihime's head. Jidando then got in and placed a hand on the gate. I don't know why you are all going though this gate but on the other side, the Shinigami are strong. I know that. Ichigo said with a smirk. Well then as long as you know. I'm going to open the gate so stay back. Don't get scared, it'll only take one heave. He dug his hands into the ground underneath the gate and pulled up, opening the gate as he did. Most of them stood impressed by the fact that the huge gate was lifted. I never thought that it could be lifted. Ichigo, however, noticed that Jidando was standing still, as if he was looking at something. Hey, what's wrong? Why are you standing still like this? Ichigo said, running to his side and then he noticed the scared expression on his face. Ichigo heard footsteps and turned toward the Seraite and saw a man with a fox-like grin wearing a Shinigami uniform with a Zanpakuto by his side. Who's that? Jidando, despite being scared, said. Captain of the 3rd Squad, Jin Ichimaru. Naruto quickly jumped to Yoruichi's side. Ka-chan, is that really him? The one who? He was cut off as Yoruichi spoke. Yes Naruto, but don't say that out loud, he said. Now stay behind me, this man is more dangerous than most Shinigami. Naruto nodded and stood behind Yoruichi. Oh, this isn't good, Jin said. Suddenly a gash appeared on Jidando's right arm, causing him to let go. But he still held up the gate with his left arm and back, however he was forced this his knees by the weight of it. Everyone was shocked as Ichigo called out his name. Unacceptable. Jin had a hand on his Zanpakuto like he was the one who cut Jidando despite being far away. A guardian isn't supposed to the gate. Yoruichi was currently looking at their situation. We were careless, he thought. I didn't think someone like him would come all the way here. These kids don't stand a chance against a captain at their current level. They cannot fight him. We must avoid the worst possible scenario. Jidando spoke up, despite the pain he is going though. I lost. And because of that, a gate guardian must open the gate. What are you talking about? The captain walked forward, toward the gate. Even if you lost, you ain't supposed to open the gate. When a gate guardian loses, it means death. At the end, he had a evil smile on his face which scared the injury guardian even more. Ichigo ran forward and attacked with his Zanpakuto, but Jin blocked it with his own. The force pushed each other back and Ichigo pointed his Zanpakuto at Jin. What the hell are you doing? That's my line. Yoruichi yelled from behind. Don't just come here and butt in like this, besides anyone who attacks an unarmed guy will be killed by me. Ha, you're funny kid. Ain't you scared of me? No. Stop it Ichigo and come back now, Yoruichi yelled. We need to retreat for now. What? No way I can beat this guy. Oh, your name is Ichigo Kurosaki. Jin said, getting Ichigo attention. You know me. Oh, not much. Jin then turned around and walked back. All the more reason why I can't let you pass. He held his Zanpakuto out to the right. How are you going to attack me from that far? Are you going to throw your sword? Ichigo asked. Throw it? No. He looked back with an evil grin. I'm going to stab you with it. He turned toward Ichigo and held his right arm, which was holding his Zanpakuto, back and said, shoot to kill Shinso. His sword suddenly expanded in length, and Ichigo barely had time to block it. However, the force pushed him back into Jidando and pushed the two of them back. Jidando landed knocked out while Ichigo got up rubbing his head. As the gate closed, Jin said, bye-bye. The group ran to Ichigo and asked if he was okay, to which he replied yes and looked at the now closed gate. Damn. Later, the other voice told to be careful when you are going to fight the dark voice. Yoruichi asked again as they walked around the Rukan district. As Ichigo and his friends looked around and decided to meet up later at the elder's house, Yoruichi wanted to talk to Naruto about why he fainted in the world in between. Naruto explained why he did as well as his dream he had. They were currently in their human forms nearby a small river within a forest they found. Naruto inherited many traits from Yoruichi, like her lack of modesty and dislike of clothing. Which explains why neither of them were wearing clothes. Naruto was still 8 years old, but he was a little bit taller than before. Yes, Ka-chan, the other voice made it sound like that I'll need to fight him, Naruto said, looking at his reflection in the water, as some fishes nibble on his small toes. It was like it knew that I would need to fight him for something, but it just couldn't tell when. Yoruichi looked at her son, deep in thoughts. That voice is now warning him of the other. What going on with my son? Yoruichi sighed as she sat down beside Naruto. Listen Naruto, I want you to know that no matter what, I will be by your side no matter what. She gently scratched behind his ear, which got him to purr slowly. While Naruto didn't like to be treated like a baby, he always accepted this kind of attention from his Ka-chan. And not just me, Kazuki, Tessai, Ururu, and Jinta. Don't forget Ichigo and the others, Naruto said, smiling. I know that I just met them a few hours ago, but I can tell that they are good people. Yoruichi smiled as well. Whenever Naruto accepted someone like this, she knew that he was right. Okay, them too. She noticed that it was getting dark. Come on Naruto, back into your kitsune form and let go back. Naruto nodded, and in 2 puffs of smoke, they were back in their animal forms and dashed off. In the elder's house. So you're saying that we can't go through the other gates now? Ichigo asked. The group was in the elder's house and was looking at a map in the dirt. Yes, they most likely increase security within and at the other gates. Beside, the same strategy almost never works twice. Yoruichi explained. I agreed. Ishida said. Well, how do we get in now? Ichigo asked. Ka-chan, what about your friend, Kukaku Shiba? Naruto asked from beside her. Ah yes, good idea Naruto. Elder, do you know where Kukaku Shiba is? What? The elder asked. I understand that she likes to change residences, and I haven't had the time to find her home. Are you really planning to go though that way? The elder sounded scared and shocked. That way? Orihime wondered. Outside, the group heard noises and looked at the door. Huh, what's that noise? The door broke down as a person fell, though. Following him was a boar with a red ribbon on it. A boar? Ishida asked as he looked at the animal. Damn, that the 5th time this week Bonnie threw me off. The man dusted himself off and gave a 2-finger salute to the elder. Hey old man, how you been? Ganju, what are you doing here at this time of night? The elder asked. Go back home now. Some greeting, and I haven't seen you in forever, and when I finally decided to visit you want me to go back. And look at your guest, they're shocked by your rudeness. Huh. Ganju looked at Ichigo and noticed that he was wearing Shinigami clothing. What? Ganju took off his glasses to get a better look at him. What is a dumb, dirty, and pathetic Shinigami doing here? What? Ichigo asked as Ganju walked closer to him. Not what. He walked up to Ichigo and began to slap him lightly. What is a dumb, slap, dirty, slap, and pathetic, slap, Shinigami doing here? Ichigo looked at him, growing annoyed with each slap but kept his anger from lashing out at him. Hey, can't you talk? Or are you too stupid to speak, you dandelion head? Ichigo then gave him a mean left hook which sent Ganju flying. Well, at least he managed to keep his anger from knocking out some of his teeth. Ganju landed near the broken door and got right back up, holding his injured cheek. Hey, what was that for? You picking a fight? That's my line. And beside, you started it by insulting me and slapping my face. You primeval boar. See what happens if you ain't raised right, Naruto, Yoruichi said to Naruto as Ichigo and Ganju argue. You would become a pervert like Kazuki, a hothead idiot that charges head first into things like Ichigo, or a person who randomly insults anyone they see that they don't like, Ganju. Naruto nodded at her facts. Should we do something? Orihime asked Yoruichi, but Naruto answered her question. I say we let them fight it out, at least that way we get some entertain out of it. Good idea, Naruto. Yoruichi patted his head. By the way, who is that guy? Ishida asked the elder. You don't know who I am, Ganju said, wiping his chin as everyone said no. Well, I'll tell you anyway. I am Ganju, the self-professed Crimson Bullet of West Rukan District, the self-professed most, want to be your big brother, candidate, and self-professed #1 Shinigami hater in all of the West Rukan. Everyone looked at him with sweat drops forming. So what you're saying is, Naruto said as he jumped onto Orihime's head. You're a winner of 3 fake titles that you made up yourself and a nobody that hates Shinigami. That's right, Ganju said with a large smile, but his head caught up to the words Naruto said. Wait, I'm not a nobody, and for your information, my friends gave me those titles. Let me guess, all 4 of them. Yoruichi smiled at her son. He also inherited her sharp tongue and witty comebacks for anything. Ha, if a baby kitsune can insult you like that, then you're hopeless. Ichigo said with a smile. Shut up. You strawberry. Ichigo translate into strawberry as well, or is my Japanese wrong again? Ganju yelled and tackled Ichigo outside. Ichigo's friends were about to run to him and help, but 4 people blocked them. Sorry, but we can't let you cut into Big Brother fight. 4 more boar riding people blocked their path. Now get out of here, Ganju yelled at a downed Ichigo. As long as I'm alive, no Shinigami will be allowed to enter in the West Rukongai. Ka-chan, Naruto said from inside, hearing the words that Ganju said after deciding to jump off of Orihime's head. Ain't everyone here beside us technically dead? Now that you say it, yes they are. Ichigo then gave Ganju a foot to the face. Cripes, don't you ever stop talking. Beside, if you want to fight, then bring it on. How dare you punch my handsome face a second time? Ganju held a hand to his face. I kicked you the second time, idiot. Ichigo, stop fighting and save your strength for real enemies, not in this meaningless fight. Yoruichi spoke up from near the door. Hey, he started it, so if you want us to stop, tell him. Sheesh. Getting work up for something this childish. I swear Naruto acts more mature than him sometimes. Yoruichi thought. Alright then, no more talk. Bring it on, Strawberry. Ganju grabbed a hatchet out from its cover. Stop it, Ganju, the elder said as he went out of the house. He isn't an evil Shinigami. Shut up. Beside Shinigami or Shinigami, no matter who they are, he looked at Ichigo. Get ready. He ran forward toward Ichigo, who was weaponless. This isn't good, he doesn't have his Zanpakuto. Ishida said, but Chad ran past him and hurled said item at Ichigo, who caught it. Thanks, Chad. He removed the wrappings and held it out toward Ganju, who was still rushing forward. Huge. So that's your Zanpakuto. However, the two clashed weapons, sparks flying between the two metal. Just because you have a bigger weapon, doesn't mean that you will win. Ganju made an outline of a circle in the ground and pushed Ichigo's sword onto it. Somehow the sword began to sink into it. What? Sink. The sword was engulfed by the now quicksand ground and Ganju kicked Ichigo away from it. Why, you cheater, using weird tricks. Ganju brought down his hatchet onto of Ichigo, who blocked it by catching Ganju's wrist and countered with a punch to the face. Ganju recoiled and held his face. I'll admit, if that didn't drop you, then you're tough. Ganju ran forward empty-handed and the two began to fight with their hands. Ganju, while the bigger and stronger looking of the two, was slightly slower, while Ichigo was able to block and counter most of his attacks. Ichigo threw Ganju behind him and almost stomped on his head, but Ganju rolled out of the way in time. Ganju got up and ran forward, ready for another round, but speaking of time. An alarm clock on the pink robes wearing guy back rang out, causing everyone to look at it. Ganju tried to stop himself but ended up tripping himself. What time is it? He yelled, getting back up, not bothering to wipe his face of the dirt and blood. It's bad, big brother. It's already 9. The alarm clock wearing one yelled. Oh man, she is going to skin me alive. Bonnie, let's go. The boar jumped over Ichigo, missing him by a few inches, and landed in front of both of them. However, the boar broke the ground as it landed, which sent Ganju flying forward before he finally stopped. Instead of being mad, he praised the boar. Nice job, Bonnie, but we don't have time today, hurry and let me ride you. The boar gave off an odd shine in its eyes before running forward and knocking Ganju up into the air and catching him on his way back down. Wait a minute, you're running away. Ichigo yelled as Ganju landed backwards on his ride. No, I'm not. We'll finish this tomorrow. Got it, Strawberry. Just wait until then. Let's go, everybody. Hey, that's my line. Ichigo was trampled by the 4 other boar riders. Wow, they're all gone, Orihime said while Ishida placed a hand on Ichigo's shoulder. That was a disaster. I'm speechless. Ichigo stared at the way Ganju and his friends went before yelling to the sky. Damn him. Just who the hell is he? Later that night, everyone was currently asleep on some futons that the elder provided them. Everyone was sleeping on their own separate futons while Yoruichi was curled up around Naruto. The small kitsune was kicking lightly in his sleep and had a pain expression on his face. No, get away. Sweat went down his face as he mumbled in his sleep. Naruto's dream. Naruto, in human form this time and wearing a small orange jumpsuit, like his own in the anime but smaller size and no goggles, behind him a cloud of darkness was engulfing the land like before. This time it managed to engulf Naruto, who began to look around in the darkness, scared. I finally caught you, child, the dark voice spoke. Naruto, however, gathered his courage and yelled back. Whoever you are, I'm not scared of you. The dark laughed lightly. You have guts, child, I'll give you that. But I'm here to give you a warning about the other voice. The one that seems nice. Naruto was confused by his words. What do you mean? I mean that voice is nothing but a liar, one that will gain your trust before he stabs you in the back. Looking closer into the darkness, Naruto could see the faint outline of something. Trust me, child, if you chose him then he'll betray your trust. Why are you telling me this? Naruto yelled as the outline began to move. Because you are the only one that can give me the one thing I desire the most, freedom. The winds began to blow away the darkness. Guess he found out you're here. Be prepared to choose child, for if you make the wrong one then everyone you hold dear to will die. The darkness completely engulfed Naruto, which caused him to disappear. You just made things wrong. The other voice spoke. In my defense, I was protecting him from you as well, like you did with me. But now it'll only be harder for him to choose. Well, only time will tell who he'll pick. One thing was for certain, Naruto didn't sleep well that night. Mornings, personally this writer favorite part of the day. The birds are chirping, the sun is rising, and what do you mean you're not going? Ishida's voice rang out throughout the Rukin, waking up several people from their sleep. The reason why he was yelling was because Ichigo refused to move from his spot on the floor. Just what you said. I'm not going, just go on ahead and I'll catch up later, Ichigo said, remaining rooted to the floor. I am going to finish my fight with that guy from last night. What? Just for that stupid reason? You're coming with us right now. He grabbed Ichigo's robes and began to pull, however Ichigo held tight to the floor. No. He'll think I'm a coward if I'm not here to settle my fight with him. Ichigo held the floorboards tightly as Ishida began to double his efforts. Orihime looked in and asked. What's wrong? Ichigo doesn't want to go just because he wants to finish his fight last night with that guy. He looked at Ichigo. We don't have time for this, you fool. Who the fool? I'm going to beat him up as quickly as possible, then we can leave. A certain black cat decided enough was enough and scratched Ichigo, which caused him to yell and awaken everyone in the Rukin and a couple Shinigami as well. Ichigo lay face down in the dirt with some blood streaming down his face. Did all the blood gone to your head and made you forget why we're here? Yoruichi asked. Beside, we got more important problems than your pride. Naruto is sick. This got everyone attention and they looked at the kitsune who had a small, wet cloth on his forehead and a pained expression his face. I noticed his fever early morning and asked the elder if there was anyone who could help. Unfortunately no one here specializes in animals, but Kukaku might have some medicine that can help. Can't Orihime just heal him? Ichigo asked, rubbing his face as he looked at the small kitsune, feeling sorry for him. Yoruichi just shook her head. It's not that simple. Orihime's powers only work on wounds, not illness. Our best bet is to get to Kukaku as soon as possible. Also, I'm sure you haven't forgotten about Rukia, right? Ichigo looked away from the cat. You can't just waste time here just to see who more stubborn, but if you really want to stay then stay. Orihime, you mind carrying Naruto? The orange-haired girl quickly shook her head and gently picked up the small kitsune, holding him close to her chest. Don't get this the wrong way, you perverts. Later, the group, including Ichigo who decided to go, walked along a dirt path with Yoruichi leading them. She was determined to get Naruto help. Hey, we're at the edge of the village. Are you sure this is the right way? Ichigo asked, stopping along with Orihime and Chad. Yes, according to the map the elder gave us, it should be this way, Ishida responded, pulling out a map. But if you're complaining so much then you take the lead. I'm not complaining. Kukaku probably wants to keep his identity a secret. Orihime said, still holding Naruto who was sleeping a bit more peaceful than before. Quite the opposite. It's just that Kukaku's nature, and personal preference, Yoruichi went forward, causing the group to follow. Don't worry, even though this person moves a lot the overall theme of the house stays the same. You'll be able to know it the moment you see it. The group stopped on a small hill overlooking a odd house. Ah, there it is. The group looked at the house that had a huge chimney behind it and two human arms holding up a banner. The group looked at the house with different reactions. Come on, no time to waste. The group went on, but before they could enter it, two voices yelled from above. Halt! Who goes there? Looking up, they saw two figures on top of the arms. Strangers. And one of them is a Shinigami. They jumped down while Ichigo put a hand on his blade's handle. I, Koganehiko, the one wearing the white robe said. And Shiroganehiko, the yellow robe wearing one continue. Will not allow you to pass. They finished together. Great. More gatekeepers. The Soul Society is becoming a real pain. Ichigo said while the two noticed someone near his feet. Yoruichi-sama. They yelled in unison. Inside. And there we go. This should help the little kitsune, Shiroganehiko said as he held up a small spoon of green liquid medicine. The group was currently in a room under the house where they sat side by side while Yoruichi sat beside Naruto, who was awake a little. Come on little guy, just drink this and you'll feel better. He held the spoon for Naruto, who sniffed it before turning his head away, not liking the smell of it. Yoruichi sighed. Naruto always hated medicine. She got closer to him and said, Naruto, I know you don't like it, but you'll have to drink it to get better. The kitsune looked at his Ka-chan for a moment before sighing mentally, knowing he can never win in an argument against her. He turned toward the spoon and drank the entire thing, fighting against an urge to vomit it out. After he finished it all, he felt the fever going away and began to feel much better, but also tired. A side effect of the medicine, Yoruichi-sama, he'll feel a little tired after he drinks it, but he should wake up soon. Shiroganehiko said as Naruto went back to sleep. It's alright, he needs his rest anyway. She said. The door behind Shiroganehiko began to knock. Hi, Kukaku-sama will see you know. He opened the door to the surprise of everyone, see a woman at the end of the room. She has green eyes and was wearing bandages over her long messy black hair that parts down in half at the small of her back. She had a white skirt and provocative red robe exposing her ample bosom. She was missing her right arm and has a tattoo on her left arm. She had bandages around her right shoulder and both ankles. She also has wooden sandals and a cloak. Ah, it's been a while, Yoruichi. She said as the black cat went over to her, carrying Naruto by the scruff of her neck again. Kukaku is a woman, the teenagers exclaimed. I don't recall ever saying she was a man. Huh, who are those kids in the fox? Kukaku asked as Yoruichi set Naruto down and sat in the middle of the room. Actually, Kukaku, I have a favor to ask you. That's usually the case whenever you visit me, Kukaku said as she stared at the cat. Is it a difficult problem? Most likely. It's been a while since we talked like this, alright, tell me. I enjoy difficult problems. Repentance Cell. As Rukia stared out at the two tools that will cause her death, Renji looked at her before going toward her. Vice Captain. One of the guards said. Renji put a hand on her shoulder and leaned down to her face. Here is the unconfirmed information. 5 Ryoko was able to break into the Soul Society yesterday and one of them carried a sword as tall as himself. This got the black hair woman attention as she looked at him. No, it can't be. And had bright orange hair. He finished, much to the horror of Rukia. Shiba home. I see. I get the picture, Kukaku said, as she smoked a pipe. Alright, I'll do it. Really? Yoruichi asked. Hi, if that dumb genius is involved, I can't refuse even if I could. She paused as Shiroganehiko brought a mug of beer. I don't know much American drinks, so yay. Setting down her pipe, she picked up the mug. However, while I trust you, I don't trust these kids. By the way, you still didn't explain who the fox is. Said fox was sleeping beside Yoruichi. Very well, this is Naruto. She paused as Kukaku took a drink of her beer. My son. Kukaku's eyes widened in shock at that information. She spat out her beer and began to cough furiously. Of course, her spit take managed to douse everyone in front of her and caused Naruto to wake up. Ka-chan, where are we and why am I wet? He asked, noticing his wet fur. Yoruichi coughed. Can I speak to you and your son privately? Kukaku said, standing up and going toward and opening another door. Yoruichi nodded and motioned Naruto to follow her. As the two went into another room, Kukaku looked at the teens and said, I want you guys to meet my kid brother. he'll be following you all into the seraite. He's a bit of a pain though. Entering the room and closing the door, she heard a muffled sound from the other side. All right, talk, she said as the two transformed into their human forms to wipe themselves of the beer. How'd you get a son? Minutes later. Wow, that's interesting, Kukaku said with Naruto in her lap, reading a small book about a hero slaying huge beasts to revive the one he loves. Naruto was wearing some of Ganju's old kid clothes, so he had a white and green robe on him. Although it was still a couple sizes too big since the bottom went past his legs and the sleeve completely covered his short arms. Yoruichi was wearing her usual attire just without the neckwarmer. Yoruichi knew her friend deserved to know about Naruto, so she told her most about Naruto, leaving out certain parts for his sake. Yes, my little kitsune is pretty tough for someone his age, Yoruichi said, messing with Naruto's hair. And I'll admit he is pretty cute. Kukaku smiled and pinched one of his baby fat cheeks, which caused Naruto to try and get away. Although I never took you for the motherly sort, what happened to the old saying, if you have kids, your fun is over? Quote, I guess I was wrong, Yoruichi said, rubbing the back of her head. Taking care of Naruto been much more fun than I expected, hell he even picked up a few of my traits. I can tell. The trio turned toward the sound of fighting and yelling in the other room where they left the teens. Geez, what the heck is going on in there? Taking Naruto off her lap, Kukaku got up to open the door but was stopped by Yoruichi. Hang on, let me and Naruto transform back. Kukaku smirked. I see they don't know that you're a woman, right? Yoruichi nodded and gently took the small book from Naruto, to which he pouted. Ka-chan, I was reading, he said, face in a cute little pout. I know, but time to change back. The two was engulfed in a small cloud of smoke to reveal the two in their animals' forms standing on two piles of clothing. Kukaku opened the door and was forced to dodge Ganju as he came tumbling into the room, breaking the door as well. He got up and charged Ichigo, who was in a fighting stance. Hey Ganju, why the hell are you fighting? Kukaku asked as the two fought. Ka-chan, it's that weirdo from last night, Naruto said, jumping onto Kukaku's shoulder, who scratched behind his ear. You already met Ganju? Yes, and it was rather odd. The two males duked it out, throwing and receiving punches and kicks. However, it went over the line when Kukaku's pipe, which she left on the pillows, was stepped on and broken into two. Alright, that's enough. Naruto, sensing danger, jumped off her shoulder and she gathered some ryutsu into her left fist and slammed it into the ground, causing an explosion. Luckily, everyone but Ichigo, Ganju, and Shiroganehiko managed to get out in time. I can see why she always moves around Ka-chan, Naruto said from Chad's shoulder, eyes wide. Me too. Chad agreed with the small kitsune. Extreme makeover, Orihime randomly said. Inside. What the heck is wrong with you bakas? Kukaku yelled at the two downed males. Both of you fighting the moment you saw each other, and look at what you did, you destroyed my house. The remaining of Ichigo's friends looked inside to see Kukaku stomping on her brother as he tried to explain. But sis, a foot to the face cut him off. No excuses, she twisted her foot a little and looked at the teens. Any complaints? No, they said in unison while Naruto jumped off of Chad's shoulder and got closer to Ichigo. Hey Strawberry, you still alive? He tapped his small paw against Ichigo's face. My name is not Strawberry, you dumb kitsune. He groaned, only to be picked up by the hair by Kukaku, who had a mean look on her face. First off, you insult Naruto, you insult me, got it? She growled as Ichigo began to sweat nervously. Second, this is my house. If you don't like the way how things are run here, then you're more than welcome to leave. Now say sorry. Sorry Naruto, Ichigo said. Good. She dropped him back down and took the small kitsune into her arms. Ichigo crawled over to Ganju, who had a footprint on his cheek. Your sister is scary. Tell me about it. Ganju grumbled. All right, everyone up. Kukaku ordered, to which everyone got up. Shiroganehiko go outside and start the preparations. He nodded and ran outside. Everyone else, be quiet and follow me. Underground. Everyone was currently walking through a long hallway that was lighted somehow without the use of generators. How is there lights here if we're underground and no generator? Ishida asked. I keep a special plant in the cracks of the walls that is able to glow brightly. Kukaku said, still holding onto Naruto in her arms. As the plant only found in the Soul Society. She ignored him and stopped in front of large metal door. Okay, Ganju, open it. Ganju quickly do as he was told and opened the door, revealing the chimney they saw outside. I'll be shooting you all into Seraite with this, Kukaku said. Naruto was looking at the giant chimney in awe. From the sky. The sky, Ishida and Ichigo exclaimed. My name is Kukaku Shiba and I'm the best pyrotechnic in all of Soul Society. She gave a thumbs up with her left arm. Cool title, Naruto said, getting a pat from Kukaku. Days later, I decided to skip the other parts due to two things. One, I think it's a little boring, and two, I'm typing this at school right now and got a test in 10 minutes. Listen, once we're in the Seraite we all need to stay together. Yoruichi said, her tail still bent from an incident with Ichigo. Of course Naruto thought it was funny looking and played with it a little until he was told to stop. The moment you encounter any captains, just run and hope they don't chase you. Our mission is to save Rukia and nothing else, and don't take any risks. She looked at Ichigo. That means you also. Kukaku walked over to them and said, hey, I'm about to start the cannon. You all ready? She got nods from everyone. Okay, but first, she took out a small necklace that was in the shape of an orange flame out and placed it around Naruto's neck. Since you're technically my nephew, I want you to have that, but be careful with it. It used to belong to someone very special to me. Ganju took one look at the necklace and his eyes widened. No way, that's his necklace. And she's just giving it away. Okay, I promise to take good care of it. Naruto said. Kukaku smiled and went up to the cannon and began to chant. Now start pouring your Ryutsu into the ball. Everyone, excluding Naruto due to the fact that in his fox form he can only do some low-level binding spells, began to do as they were told. Kukaka was nearing the end of the Kido and took off her bandages around her head, which wrapped around her left arm and was engulfed by flames. She slammed it down and the cannon shot out. Great job, Kukaku-sama. Her two friends praised her. Kukaku, however, took her sword out of the ground and looked at the sky with a sad look. Be careful, Ganju. She then thought of the smile that Naruto gave, causing a tear to go down from her eyes. Just like his smile, so warm and bright at everything, she thought with a smile. I still miss you, Akihiro. Somewhere in the real world, a black-haired man sneezed. Bless you. Someone said that walked past him. Thanks. He rubbed his nose and went back to reading a book about fireworks. Seraite. Alert. Alert. Someone yelled out, causing all the captains who were in a meeting to look outside along with most of the Shinigamis. Intruders in the Seraite. Could it be those Ryoku? A man wearing a ear patch and had spiky hair with bells at the end said. All squads get into positions. Every Shinigami began to prepare for an attack, closing the gates and grabbing their weapons. A man with glasses looked at the ear patch wearing man as he suddenly ran out. Wait, Kenpachi. He yelled, but Kenpachi ignored him and ran outside. Above, a girl with pink hair jumped from the roof of a building and landed on his shoulder. Hey Yakiru. He greeted the girl. We're going to look for the intruders, right? She asked with a smile on her face. Yup. It's those Ryoku. I wanna see if any of them can give a good fight. He licked his lips with an insane smile on his face. The meeting is dismissed for now. The captains looked at the captain commander as he spoke. Your actions will be discussed next meeting, Ichimaru, but for now return to your squads and prepare for a possible attack. Everyone began to file out of the room while the glasses-wearing man spoke to Jin. It was lucky that the warning came in time. I don't understand what you're trying to say. Jin said, his ever-present grin on his face. You may fool everyone, but you can't fool me. With that, the two left, leaving a certain confused white-hair captain. Everyone looked at the ball that was trying to break into the seraite. Come on, break, you dumb shield. Kenpachi said with the battle lust smile on his face matching the bright smile of his vice captain. With Ichigo and others. It's no use, we don't have enough Ryutsu. Ishida yelled. Even with Ichigo's vast amount of Ryutsu, the shield was proving to hold up against them. Suddenly a wave of shock went through the inside of the ball and caused Naruto, who was holding on tightly to Chad's shoulder, to fall off and onto the ball with Yoruichi. The moment he touched it, the ball began to glow a dark purple and made it shot right through the shield. Below, every Shinigami looked at the ball as it glowed a dark purple and shot right through the shield. However, the action wasn't missed by the captain commander, who was looking at the events from the first diversion barracks. That Ryutsu, it seems so familiar. He quietly said before turning and walking back into his room. Did you see that? One Shinigami exclaimed. It just broke through the shield like nothing. They looked at it, sailed in the sky, a dark purple tail trailing behind it. Above, everyone held on tightly as they shot forward, however the ball cracked and broke after they made it halfway into the seraite. Naruto. Yoruichi yelled as she tried to go toward her son, who was knocked out, but Chad's large body blocked her way and she was forced to hang on to him. Soon a whirlpool of Ryutsu appeared and began to pull them apart. Everyone grabbed onto someone. Ichigo and Ganju grabbed each other, Chad with Yoruichi, and Ishida with Orihime. However, the kitsune began to drift away from the group while Orihime tried to reach out and grab him. But he shot out from the whirlpool before she could reach him. No, Naruto. Yoruichi was about to jump out with him but was held back by Yoruichi. Yoruichi, he'll be fine. If he got us through the shield, he can survive the fall. Beside, we need someone to guide us. He said, not liking the words one bit but had no choice. Yoruichi looked at him and nodded. Naruto, please be alright. Unknown to her, the necklace that was around his neck began to glow and turned into a small ball of purple Ryutsu. It went in another direction before landing under a tree, and disappear, leaving the small kitsune asleep in the shade. As the Shinigami rushed around looking for the intruders, they failed to notice a black cat on top of a building. Time to look for Naruto. Yoruichi thought as she turned and ran in the direction that Naruto fell. With Naruto. Okay, I'm separated from my Ka-chan, have no idea which part of the seraite I am in, his thoughts was interrupted as his stomach growled. And I'm hungry, but I just ate before we left. Sighing, he went on with looking for his Ka-chan, or food, whichever came first. However, he was stopped as his kitsune nose picked up a certain smell. Single quote. Is that ramen? He went into a run, following the smell and saw that it led into a large building, of course not that he cared. After walking in and out of several rooms, he finally found what he's been looking for, a nice big, hot bowl of ramen on a table. Naruto trained himself to be able to eat ramen even in his kitsune form. After betting Kazuki he couldn't, so he just went up to the bowl and began to eat. However, he failed to hear the footsteps and voices outside the room he was in. Outside. It's too bad we couldn't get Yukatake Taicho favorite food with all the shops closed. A man with dark hair and a short goatee told the shorter woman next to him. Lucky that I made my homemade ramen for him while you wasted your time. The woman next to him said, smiling, which caused the man to get mad. I'm willing to bet that Yukatake Taicho will get burnt by it because you made it too hot. He yelled back. At least I made him something, and why are you carrying those spices? The man had 2 bottles of spice in his hands which he shook slightly. Because your ramen is too plain tasting, these will give it taste. It's not plain, your taste buds are. She yelled as they got near the door for the Taicho office, which she opened. Then they saw something yellow eating Yukatake Taicho's ramen. Ah, Yukatake Taicho ramen. They yelled in unison. Naruto kept eating as the two debate on what to do. What are we going to tell Yukitake Taicho? No doubt that he'll be hungry when he gets back from the meeting, and we can't say that a kitsune just came into the office and ate his food. The man said, dropping the spices. Maybe we can. If we catch it and show him, then he'll believe us. The two nodded in agreement and looked at the kitsune, who was still eating. Naruto was ignoring them until he heard the catch the kitsune part and prepared to dodge. Now he can't use his shunpo in his kitsune form nor most of his kido, but he is very small and hard to catch in this form. The man jumped and tried to grab Naruto, but he dashed to the side, allowing the man to fall face first in the still hot soup of the ramen. As he screamed, the woman ran up to him and tried to grab him, but Naruto jumped up and kicked the back of her head as he landed and jumped again, making the woman fall. He ran out of the room with the two close behind him. They ran by several Shinigami which he ran under, and the duo pushed aside anyone not fast enough to dodge them. Don't these two know how to give up? Naruto thought as he turned a corner and ran between another Shinigami legs. However, when the two turned the same corner, they pulled themselves into a sudden stop. Yukitake Taicho. The two bowed as the man blinked. Kion-chan, Sentaro-san, I thought you two were going to wait for me in the office. He asked as the two began to sweat. We were Taicho, but we left to help the division with the trouble after I made you a nice bowl of ramen. But when we return, we saw that kitsune eating your ramen. The man blinked again. Kitsune. He turned behind him and saw a baby kitsune hiding behind another corner, the small head peeking out looking at them. Odd, not much baby animals can get into the seraite, the kitsune must have died young. Poor thing. Smiling, he took out a chocolate bar from his sleeve and torn it open, allowing the smell to blow in the direction of the kitsune. Naruto, catching the smell, looked at the smiling white hair man who was holding a chocolate bar out while on one knee. Naruto can tell that the man didn't give of any ill purpose, so he slowly made his way to him. That's right, I won't hurt you, Yukitake said as the kitsune got closer to him. He, and his 2/3 seats, watched as the kitsune sniffed the chocolate before taking a small bite and give off a happy purr. Yukitake gently took the kitsune into his arms and scratched behind his ear, getting another purr. Ah, up close he is really cute, Kion said, petting Naruto as well as Sentaro. Let's head back to my office, I have some things to discuss with you both. They nodded and headed back to his office. Inside, you're still against Rukia's execution, right, Taicho? Kion said as they sat in the office with her and Sentaro in front of their Taicho, who had Naruto in his lap. Yukitake sighed as he petted Naruto. Yes, Rukia was always a bright girl, a little short temper maybe, but always willing to help someone out. I wasn't happy that Council 46 decided to kill her over a small crime, he scratched behind Naruto's ear. All of it seems a bit strange. On his face was a serious expression, one that haven't been seen by his 2/3 seats in a while. Then he suddenly lifted Naruto up into the air. But I can think about all that later, for now I got to find the right name for this little guy. His serious expression was replaced with a smiling one, causing two to sweat drop slightly. Let's see, how about Sora? Since your eyes are sky blue, Naruto shook his head, showing the trio that he can understand him. No. Okay, how about Tomoko? Again no. That's a girl's name. Naruto thought as Yukitake thought of another name for a second. I know, Naruto. Fishcake. Kion thought it was odd for her captain to name the fox after a ramen topping. Yukitake smiled at her, causing her to blush and look away. No, Maelstrom, I can tell that there's something special about this kitsune. They all suddenly felt someone releasing their Zanpakuto and battling someone else. I guess someone found one of the Ryoka, Sentaro said, as Kion nodded in agreement. Naruto, however, knew whose spiritual pressure of the Ryoka. That's Strawberry. I guess Ka-chan wasn't kidding about him running into fights with Ichigo. Ichigo suddenly yelled, It stands for guardian, damn it. What the hell are you yelling about? A bald Shinigami said, his Zanpakuto now a spear with a wax wooden shaft. Ichigo looked around with an angry look on his face. I have the strangest feeling that someone called me a strawberry. Back to Naruto. Naruto wiggled out of Yukitaki's hands and jumped out the window, landing softly on a roof, and ran in the same direction of the battle. Ah, too bad, that kitsune would have made a good pet. Yukitaki was more focused on the fact that he lost a good pet, rather than the fact that he ran off in the same direction of the battle. Seeing their captain's saddened expression, Kion and Sentaro jumped to their feet. Don't worry, Taicho, I shall find and bring Naruto back. Sentaro yelled and, for some odd reason, jump out of the same window Naruto used. Not if I get him and bring him back first. Kion yelled, doing the same as Sentaro. However, the roof they landed on wasn't meant to take the sudden weight and collapsed, sending the two down into the storage room. Maybe we should have thought before we jumped. Kion said on the back of Sentaro, both had swirls for eyes. Sentaro nodded in agreement. Naruto was running and jumping across the rooftops as fast as he can, however he suddenly fell when he felt something hit his side. Landing on the ground, the last thing he saw was a clown-face man. Hours later, Naruto slowly woke up to find himself in a cage on a table within what appears to be a lab. Ah, you're finally awake. A voice said from the shadows, and walked out was the oddest man Naruto ever saw. The man had black and white makeup on his face in a skeleton image with an odd hat and had golden eyes. He was also wearing a captain's haori, and he walked over to Naruto, looking at him with a smile that screamed insane. I've never had an animal test subject before, so you should feel honored to be the first one I use my methods on. The clown reached into his coat, pulled out a needle with green fluid in it, and opened the small metal cage to inject it into Naruto's body. What he didn't expect was Naruto dodging the needle with impressive reflexes and running out of the cage. Get back here! The clown yelled, but Naruto wasn't going back to him without a fight, so he proceeded to run around the tables, knocking over things as he did, and avoiding the clown's attempts to grab him. However, the clown disappeared in a shunpo, appeared right in front of Naruto and grabbed him by his small body in his left hand. Got you, you little pest. His right hand, which held the needle, drew closer to him, but Naruto then bit down on the clown's left hand. Hard. Ouch. He yelled, throwing Naruto into the air, which he landed on ceiling lamp. Naruto watched as the clown began to throw a temper tantrum, tearing apart his lab and saying how he was going to dissect the little pest. Yup. He wasn't going back down unless the crazy clown leaves first. Looking around the room for a possible exit point, he concluded, there wasn't one. Well, there was one, but that was the door, and no way in hell was he going down there until the clown leaves first. Nemu, come and help find this little pest. The door opened and walked in was a young female Shinigami who had a melancholic expression on her face. Yes, Mayuri-sama, she said in an emotionless tone, and effortlessly picks up a large table, looking under it before dropping it back down. As he watched the two Shinigami look around the lab for him, he couldn't help but wonder where his Ka-chan was. With Yoruichi, still in her cat form, was walking around the second division, looking for Naruto and also observing her old student. You really changed in the 100 years I've been gone, huh, my little bee. Yoruichi mentally sighed as she watched Soifun train some of her division members. Okay, back to finding Naruto. Now where is that troublesome little fox? She went in the direction of the third division, determined to find her adopted son. Back with Naruto. Naruto was thinking of a way to get past the two of them without being noticed when Nemu looked up at the lamp he was hiding in. Making a small ep, he quickly withdrew back. Please don't tell me she saw me. Unfortunately, she did, and told her father, creator, who looked up and threw his Zanpakuto at the lamp, barely missing Naruto but hitting the line that connected the lamp to the ceiling. Naruto fell and landed in the arms of Nemu, who then held him tightly in her arms. Good job, Nemu, now hold it still. The clown brought the needle closer to him, but before he could get any closer, Naruto used a sight block on the clown, trapping his arms behind his back, catching him off guard. Nemu was also caught off guard, so her grip on him loosened enough for him to jump out of her arms and run out the door. Nemu, don't let that pest get away. Mayuri yelled at his daughter, who ran after the fox. That fox just used a Kido, although a weak one, but still that made it even more better test subject to research on. Anyways, back with Naruto, who was running down the halls of the 12th division with Nemu hot on his tail. She's determined, alright, I'll give her that, Naruto thought, sparing a glare back to look at Nemu, who was catching up to him. He then spotted an open window and picked up his speed toward it before jumping when he was in range, but Nemu, seeing where he's going, drew her Zanpakuto from her sleeves and threw it at the window with enough force to close it. Naruto, however, was already in mid-jump and hit his small head on the glass and fell to the floor. Before his head could clear, he felt himself picked up under his arms and was now looking at the emotionless expression of Nemu. Naruto tried to wiggle out of her grip but couldn't and soon stopped, wondering what was going to happen to him. Nemu, however, was staring at him before she let one hand go and scratched the fox behind the ear, getting a small purr from the orange fox. Nemu smiled very slightly and felt if her father, creator, was coming. He wasn't, so she guessed that he was waiting for her back at the lab, so she opened the window and let Fox go, watching it look at her for a second before going out. She turned around, but before she could take a step, she felt something on her shoulder and turned her head to see the fox again. The fox then licked her right cheek with its small tongue before running back out the window. Back in the lab, Mayuri watched his daughter come back empty-handed and yelled, "You failed to catch that fox, didn't you?" Nemu didn't say anything, and just when he was about to hit her, an alarm rang from his computer. He walked over to it before turning it off and turning back to her. "I'll give you your punishment later, but for now we have other subjects to capture." Nemu silently followed him, although she was a bit happy on the inside that she felt like she made the right choice, letting the fox go. She wondered if she'll see it again. With Naruto, he was running to no specific location in mind, but when he did take notice that it was night now. Soon he ended up what appears to be a training ground with a division barracks nearby. Now, after what happened in the last two barracks, he would think to know better than to go into another one, but he was curious as he heard the sounds of laughing. He went through a window and, after a few minutes, found the source of the laughter. Large, drunken men was having a party and, for some reason, fighting each other with another they could grab. This is exactly the kind of place that Ka-chan would never allow me into, Naruto thought as he ducked under a plate. However, he was suddenly picked up from behind and was now staring into the eyes of a pink-haired girl. "Hey, it's a little fox," she said, squeezing him against her while he struggled to get free. However, her exclamation caught the attention of all the men and they looked at the small fox in their lieutenant's arms. "Hey, it is a fox," one said, getting a closer look at Naruto. "You know, I know how to make fox soup," one with blonde hair said with a lick of his lips. That made Naruto freeze in the little girl's arms as all the men looked at him with hungry looks, but he was saved by an unexpected savior. "No way. If any of you tries to eat orange, I'll make you all go through my special training." The little girl finished with a glint in her eyes that made all of them swallow in fear. Later. Well, this is better than that last division one was in. Naruto was currently playing tag in the training ground with the little girl, who said her name was Yakiru, and was now running away from her as she tried to catch him. She then disappeared in a shunpo and managed to tag him on the head. "Got you, Orange. Your turn to catch me," she yelled and was about to run when someone yelled, "Yakiru, it's time for bed." She and Naruto looked to see a bald man wearing bandages on his body and holding the door open. "K," She looked at Naruto with a smile. Come on, Orange, let's go. She walked toward the barracks when she saw that her new friend wasn't following. What's wrong? Naruto looked at her in slight regret. She was fun, but he still had to find his Ka-chan. He shook his head as she walked to him. You have to go? Yukiru asked, which Naruto nodded his head. She had a small frown on her face before she smiled. All right, but if I see you again, we have to play, okay? Naruto nodded his head, jumped on her small shoulder, gave her a small lick on the cheek, before running off into the darkness, giving her a wave of his tail as he did. Yukiru smiled and waved back. Bye, Orange. With Naruto. After a few hours of running around aimlessly, Naruto now found himself nearing another division building, feeling tired from today's events. I'll look for Ka-chan tomorrow, but for now, I need some place to sleep. Naruto went through another open window and found a small green sofa which he jumped on. He gave off a small cute yawn before curling up and going to sleep.